If you're thinking about moving to France, there's a question I want you to sit with for a second and ask yourself and to be prepared for. And it's this: what happens back home while you're here in France? What happens if someone gets sick, someone you love gets sick? Will you be able to fly back to them? Is that something that you want to do? Whether you'd be able to come back to France after you fly? I just want you to think about this. Quick intro. If you're new, I'm Diedre. I'm a Jamaican, so non-EU living in France. I work in HR here, which means part of my job is helping foreigners get through their work, foreign employees get through their paperwork. So hires, renewals, the occasional mess. And then I'm a foreign employee myself, so I've been on like both sides of it. And then outside of work, I help women and I coach them through their move to France. And what I want to do today is to tell you about a client of mine. And it was just, it came to me about, it's the kind of moment that doesn't really like show up in like any guides when you're moving to France, right? And so this client of mine got on a call with me one afternoon. And so she sat there, she didn't really say anything for a second. And then she goes, "Is it always like this?" So she's been living in France for about a year. Yeah. And she's been having just some difficulties and delays with her carte de séjour. So her titre de séjour, which is her permit to stay, right? Much longer delay than necessary, and she couldn't travel. It turns out that her grandmother ended up being sick back home, and she's been sick and she's been getting worse. And so my client didn't know if she was going to be able to get her titre de séjour back in time to fly home before, d- to in case like something happened, or just to be there for her grandmother while they were going through this period. And that moment on the call with her, for me, is why I do this. It's why my one-on-one strategy session exists, where we sit down with your actual situation and so your work, your timing, to figure out like your people back home. How do you want to navigate this? What's possible through what timeline, the shape of life that you're trying to build here. And so we walk through it before you're on the call asking, is it always like this? I paused. I will put the link in description to my one-on-one strategy session about moving abroad. It's called Your France Blueprint. Link is bio. The link is in the description whenever you're ready. Let's get back to Mike. So, like I said, her situation was she had quite a bit of delay with her titre de séjour, and she had a loved one who was getting worse. A sick loved one back home was getting worse. And she wanted to know how she was stuck because she couldn't travel because she was waiting on her titre de séjour, and she didn't want to just like go, because then if she left France, it would have been much more difficult for her to get back, or she probably would have like ended up like forfeiting the whole process. And so this is kind of what I wanted to talk about, and this is why I asked you to sit with that question, because that is something that you may have to prepare for, where if something happens back home, you may not be able to like go back as quickly as you like. And to understand how, have an idea of how you might want to handle that and process it. And also, honor it, because sometimes you're just not able to. And so for my client, there is nothing in the policy manual, like there is no kind of like, there's very little escalation points. There's very little ways that you can like fix this issue. You can't really have like a compassionate processing button that you can press where the cards just come back quickly, because the titre de séjour is just gonna come, and the titre de séjour is gonna come. Like when the permit comes is when the permit comes. And so what I could do, and what I did do with my client, was to tell her what was actually happening with the file, in meaning where it was likely in the process based on all the stuff that she did, what was likely, a few steps that she could take to see if she could get some response to speed up that process, what was likely and what wasn't. And I was able to like give her a better sense of the timeline instead of like the official timeline, because some of the official timeline was already wrong in her case, right? It was already a few months of delay. And the official timeline and the real timeline, they're not the same in many cases. In so many cases, sometimes they're not the same. And the official timeline is usually a range that will tell you within 2 to 4 months, 3 to 6 weeks, stuff like this. And, you know, the real timeline is what I've watched happen on average with files that look like hers, where there is delays, not knowing what to do, you miss a document, and so you have to, send it back in, but that caused even more delays, things like this. And with this client, it didn't fix it. Me going helping her to go through the steps and understand where she was in the process and figuring out what are some of the things that she could do to alleviate some of her stress and understand, things that she could do to help the prefecture understand her situation to improve her chances of getting like a quick response because it was already like delayed. Yes, we talked about all of that, but it didn't fix it because you still had to wait. You still have to wait on your Titre for the Sejour. And so I want to be, kind of like clear in this is that I couldn't exactly fix that situation. Nobody really could. Her loved one was sick, whether or not the card came back. Um, and the card was going to come when it comes. But one thing that she did share was that knowing her timeline and being able to, you know, shift some things and do something, even like tiny small steps, really helped her to not feel so helpless and out of control of the situation. And it helped her to like plan something and have a kind of like timeline, a better timeline to the end of the road when she could take her flight. And it let her like, stop refreshing her email every 20 minutes, hoping that a card that should get like a attestation de décision favorable. So the attestation for attestation. What is is attestation a word in English? Attestation. Affidavit? I think that's what it is. That she has like a favorable decision was taken. And sometimes that's a lot of what the work is like coaching women through this. Like it's not just about the rule, it's about, how we translate the situation on the ground in real life, understanding and having first-hand experiences on different scenarios and having a good idea of like how it could work. And sometimes it differs from not even sometimes, it will differ from each region in France that you are. And even in Paris itself, because Paris is so huge, they have different like prefectures and sous-prefecture, Ile-de-France. And so sometimes it's just like night and day difference. I, for example, am living in a area of Paris where the prefecture is notorious for being mega, mega slow. And it's just different, And this is why I'm here. And this is why I'm so happy and so focused on passionate about doing this work with people like you who want to move here because I've gone through it. And it's really such a relief and can be such a stress reliever when somebody's able to tell you what's actually happening behind the scenes or, reading between the rules so that you're able to plan your life around valid truths instead of like around what's like on the brochure. And every now and then I think about that client when somebody asks me what coaching is like and what how do I feel about having your friend's blueprint coaching sessions. I think about it because this is really part of why I do what I do and why I want to continue to do this, is to share my knowledge and my experience on the ground. Like I said, I've gone through about 5 or 6 visas already in France as I continue to choose this life and I continue to choose this international life of mine. And it's just to share because I don't need to gatekeep anything. So I just had that thought and I just wanted to like really, you know, give you a bit of heads up on that's a question that you may have to confront and you may have to answer. Like what happens if a loved one is, you know, you have to go back to visit a loved one because they're sick or something happened. How are you planning that? Is that a part of your budget? Do you base on how you plan to earn in France? Are you, putting money aside for this, for example? Or you do you, because if this is something that's really, really important to you, are you putting that into how flexible your time is while you're living in France? Like how you're able to arrange your schedule? Like these kind of things are things that are questions that you should answer, or you don't have to answer it before you leave, but like have them in mind so that and you're not like super surprised if the situation arises. That you're like, ah, yes, I had this question and I didn't really know how to answer it, but at least I'm not like, what's that? Side, what's the word? I forgot the word. At least that you're not like caught off guard. I forget the word I was going to say. You're not caught off guard by the whole thing. And there's something I want to say out loud about all of this is that if you're researching this move to France right now, this is a part I want to take with you. So, my client, she was smart, she did her research, she followed the process, she showed up prepared. And she still got caught in delays by something that she could not have known or did not know how to look for from the outside when she was planning. And it was something that she couldn't necessarily control. And sometimes that's what your move to France can look like. And sometimes that's what it looks like from where I'm sitting. And it's not chaos, right? And it's not a disaster. She's not my client's not like a tragic story. She worked it out. We were able to work it out and figure out a way to help her to get her Titre de Sejour. And she's still here. She's doing well, by the way, and she was able to get back home in time and return without much hassle. It's just that there was a delay. She's still, you know, living in France and doing well. But at some point in like our conversation when we were going through her France blueprint session, she said something that I've heard a lot of women say who end up on calls with me during moments like this. And she said she wished somebody had told her sooner what her options were. And like the version of you who is researching this move from your laptop right now, you're sitting on YouTube with me or, it's on some other channel and you're opening tabs, you're taking notes, you're trying to piece it together. That version of you is going to hit moments like this one. And not all the time, but once or twice, you might come up on like a situation where you're stumped and it's not avoidable. The information that would let you handle these kind of situations well isn't really sitting on the public internet. It's sitting in conversations like the one my client had with me in our blueprint session. And so I want for you is when you hit those moments, I want you to meet it with someone in your corner who's seen the pattern before and someone who can give you the real timeline instead of, what the paper says, or someone who knows what's happening on the ground or what different alternatives exist if something goes sideways. Sideways, that was the word I was looking for. Like, you don't want to hit you sideways or something like this. That's what I was trying to say. Anyways, but what I want for you is for you to have someone who can translate the system for you before you have these sorts of like delays so that you can prep. And this is just what I do. It's a one-on-one session, and we map out where friction points are, or could show up based on the situation and the life you're trying to build in France. We map those out to identify potential pain points before they happen so that you're in a more offensive. I don't want to say, but I was thinking about like game strategy right now, but so that you're better prepared and you know what to do and you know how to like handle it and pivot before it like happens to you. You're not like reactive, but you're preempting things and you're being more proactive. And so you're not, the woman on a call going, is it like always like this? Because you already asked the question and we already worked through it. Your friend's blueprint, the link is in the description. If you're not at that step yet, that's fine, really. Tomorrow's video is where I'm going to be talking about how to know if you're actually ready to make this move. And honestly, if you're still at the like, am I doing this phase, then that tomorrow's video might be the best next step for you. I'll see you in the next one. I'm Diedre, and I help women move to France to build the lives that they want that actually fits them because they deserve it and because you deserve it. Ciao.